Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Now let's have a look at some of the stocks on the move today here in Europe. I'm Caroline Hepker with that, and I'm joined by Bloomberg's equities reporter Joe Easton. Great to see you, Joe. As we see tariffs and continue to consider the impact of tariffs on Europe, renewables here are getting a second wind. But why?
They are getting a second wind. So renewable stocks, specifically offshore wind stocks, getting a big boost today. Now, this is news last night that the Trump administration is going to lift an order that had halted a big construction in the offshore wind market over in New York. Now, Equinor over in Norway was building this $5 billion project, but it was halted when Trump came into power, kind of in line with the resistance to renewable by the White House, by the administration there. But news last night that this is actually now going to resume, so therefore it's a bit of a kind of a turnaround, an about turn in policy, and we're seeing shares of wind companies soaring today. So Ørsted up around 15% at the moment, the best stock in Europe today. Vestas Wind Systems up another 5% in Europe as well. Even Equinor itself, which was one of the companies that was part of this project, gaining a couple of percentage points as well. So investors blown away by this news this morning.
Okay. What about then the defence stocks also that we've been keeping a close eye on because of the ups and downs in terms of the war in Ukraine, and now the possibility that actually the ceasefire talks may be more difficult or have less US support? How are defence stocks managing here in Europe?
Yes, this is kind of an interesting one because obviously the headlines you mentioned with Trump saying that Ukraine and Russia could start talks on a truce immediately, you'd kind of initially think that would potentially be bearish for defence spending. But the real takeaway from this is that it is another example of America pulling away from the situation with the war in Europe, and therefore Europe having to fend for itself, probably spend more money on defence in order to be less dependent on the US. And therefore we're actually seeing most of the defence stocks gaining today. Rheinmetall up another 1.6%, Leonardo up 2%, BAE Systems slightly higher. Pretty much every defence stock almost in the green this morning. So it kind of shows you that a process towards a peace deal without US involvement is actually possibly, it's easy for me to say, bullish for defence stocks.
Yeah, okay, because of the need to rearm in Europe, which is also, I suppose, in some levels, deeply concerning. As for perhaps things a bit lighter, or maybe not lighter, stodgier, Greg's. They've got guidance out. This is all about baked goods, what is baked in for them.
It is not just baked goods. Apparently they've got a macaroni and cheese that went viral on TikTok. That's according to their trading statement.
Right.
But Greg's given a trading update today. Actually, the takeaway from this, that literally no pun intended, but the takeaway is that sales were up 7% in the last quarter, so actually showing a bit of a rebound. Now, Greggs was one of these superstar stocks of the UK market a couple of years ago when they had the whole vegan sausage roll sensational thing. The stock rallied a lot, but it's come off so much. Remarkable, really. The stock used to trade at around £32 a share. It's now trading at £21 a share. But finally, the statement from Greggs is showing some improvements. So analysts over at Jefferies saying that this is a significant step up in the growth, that Greggs' robust improvement is what they're saying. Shore Capital writing that they're seeing an improvement as well. The stock moving higher by around 7% this morning.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.